the baby's born. Now here comes a depression because of lack of nutrients, or here
Mhm.
comes a mindset change because I was doing my own thing. I was forced to carry this baby, but now it's not forced. Now it's every choice that I make is
Right.
something that affects, my whole family. The father, myself, the baby. You know, in the future, grandchildren, all that stuff. Every choice that I make, it's actually being sown into a whole experience. What are some things maybe that, like, through that kind of, you learn from that experience, as far as, obviously we can't go back, but in a sense, like, if when we think about it, what are some things maybe that you learned as far as, like, the preparation, a lot of us not even being husbands and wives before we
Yep.
have children, or before we walk down the aisle, before we ask somebody for their hand, before we say yes or no. Maybe what are some of the things that you've learned? I've talked about my experiences and stuff enough that people know me, but maybe what are some of the things, maybe, that you feel comfortable with sharing, or even just comfortable as far as mindset things, that
Right.
maybe you could tell people that, and sisters, brothers, etc., we should be looking at these things before we get into some of these things that the Most High wants us to carry into birth.
Well, I
I know. I
have
just threw that. I just threw that grenade down there.
I have been studying, right? And this is just me researching and being interested by a topic, how unions actually come together and what they look like manifested. So um, I look for the positive and the negative. So when I look at my children, I can see attributes that they exhibit that come from me, good, both good and bad. And um, one thing that I wish I could go back and do is take time to look at. Um, I would advise to take time and go look at the attributes that could possibly present themselves in your offspring, um, good and bad from both sides, because we come from a culture that has trauma, not just personal, but um, systemically and systematically. So these things tend to manifest differently in people differently because they absorb them differently. They
Mhm.
might respond to them differently. So that would be one thing that
Mm.
I would recommend. And also uh, getting pregnant, right? Knowing that it is deeper than the physical, knowing
Most
that
definitely.
just researching and knowing what you're getting yourself into, basically, because I had been around my sister who, like I said, had given birth 3 times prior. And coming from the South and like our background, it was just more so of it's not really much of a beyond education of the fact, like, it since you about to have a baby, you grown already, like like you doing grown stuff, you get grown results. So um nothing else is basically spoken of. They don't speak of how um the child uh picks up on your emotions, or
Mhm.
they feel what you feel. It's always spoken of don't go to the funeral, or don't mark that baby, stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's like it's superstitious talk. It's not never spoken of in a realistic yet spiritual side of things, because again, they probably did not know how to articulate what they knew to be true to them,
Mm.
and they didn't know how to relate it to something in a physical form that um, would intrigue the mind to believe more so with instinct. So um, I would say explore how the emotional side, the metaphysical side of things are when you become pregnant, and um, stock up and put as many tools in your arsenal